Welcome to a meeting of your Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Representing District 1, Harry Cohen. Representing District 2, Ken Hagan. Representing District 3, Gwen Myers. Representing District 4, Stacy White. Representing District 5, Mariella Smith. Representing District 6, Pat Kemp. Representing District 7, Kimberly Oberman. The County Administrator is Bonnie Wise. The County Attorney is Christine Beck. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue, so we have time for everyone. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Today's meeting is brought to you with closed captioning by Hillsborough Television.
We can't hear you.
Commissioner, we begin in 3.
Good morning. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners, Board meeting, Wednesday, May 18th. We're not only in the boardroom, but also attending virtually. And I'm actually attending virtually, and Commissioner Kemp is also attending virtually. She'll be joining us in about 30 minutes. And with that, I'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting today and call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call a roll call?
Good morning, Overman.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Hagan.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
White.
Here.
And Commissioner Kemp has not arrived yet. Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. First, we're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by our chaplain, Commissioner White. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll ask that everyone please stand at this time for the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the causes and people that will be recognized at this board meeting this morning, and appreciate all the leadership of those involved. As always, I pray that you will guide this board, our staff and stakeholders, as we make decisions that are important for this county. Also continue to pray for our first responders and members of our armed forces, that you'll guide them and keep them safe each and every day, and continue to pray for peace, particularly in Ukraine. I give these thanks and ask for these blessings in your heavenly name. Amen.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. With that, I'm going to open up some very special recognitions we have today. And the first will be offered by Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And would the following individuals from the La Gaceta newspaper please join me at the podium? Patrick Mantega, publisher, Angie Mantega, associate publisher, and Mr. Mantega's wife. They've worked together for almost 4 decades. Mr. Gene Sudut, assistant editor and 23-year employee, and Jesse Simpson, an 8-year employee who is in charge of legal advertising. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is the first proclamation and commendation I'm giving at the actual podium live since the pandemic. So I was wondering where to put all this. But it's a very special one to me because of the heritage that we share from our Cuban ancestry and families in this community, but also because today, in this day and age, the press is struggling, our news media is struggling, and even under attack in some quarters. and La Gaceta fills a very important role in informing our citizens about local news and events and framing important discussions. You have a very important voice that always starts good conversations and gets people thinking in our community, and that is so important to our local democracy. So I'm very excited to be giving this proclamation today, but I'll start by getting back to the script and saying today we're here to celebrate a family legacy that has lasted 100 years. This is an incredible accomplishment for one of the oldest minority-owned newspapers in the United States and the only trilingual newspaper in the nation. When Victoriano Mantega came to the United States in 1913 and founded La Gaceta in 1922, he truly achieved the American dream. Over the past century, this family institution has grown and done much for the community, including providing must-know news, courtesy of Victoriano's dedication and hard work. His old-school work ethic was carried on by his son, Roland, and is currently championed by his grandson, Patrick. I'm very proud to present this commendation to celebrate La Gaceta's centennial anniversary. And at this point, I'll read the proclamation. Commendation, read the commendation. The Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners is pleased to congratulate La Gaceta and its publisher, Patrick Mantega, on the occasion of the newspaper's centennial anniversary as it celebrates 100 years of providing vital news coverage to the community. When La Gaceta founder, Victoriano Mantega, immigrated to the United States from Cuba in 1913, little did he know that he would be creating a local media dynasty that would serve Hillsborough County for a century. Since its first publication on May 22, 1922, La Gaceta has advocated for causes important to the Hispanic community, including access to education, rights of labor, and an independent Cuba free from corruption. The newspaper's influence also helped to protect historic buildings that house the Cuban and Italian clubs and Centro Asturiano de Tampa. As leadership passed on to Mr. Mantega's son, Roland, and his grandson, Patrick, the present publisher, La Gaceta's popularity grew, and it evolved into a trilingual periodical in Spanish, English, and Italian. As it celebrates its centennial anniversary, La Gaceta continues to serve as an important voice for the Hispanic community, and really for all of us. The Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby congratulate Patrick Mantega and La Gaceta on the publication's centennial anniversary and wishes them many more years of success, awarded this 18th day of May 2022 and signed by all 7 commissioners. And you can leave this here because it's heavy while I invite you to make some remarks.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate this. I appreciate the County Commission for doing this for me. Thank you all. Of course, this isn't for me. It's for my grandfather, my father, for the people who work every day to keep the paper coming out, and for the hundreds of people who worked over the years to get the newspaper out. It's an accomplishment to survive 100 years, and I give all that to my father and grandfather for their dedication and for teaching me that I should also be dedicated to the cause. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And let's gather up here for a photograph. All the way back here so we can get all the commissioners in it.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith, and thank you, everyone, and thank you, Patrick and Angie. This is a terrific celebration. Commissioner White, you're recognized. You had your hand raised. Did you
Oh,
bring it back down?
thank you. I didn't know if you saw it, Madam Chair, and I had a few private words with Patrick Mantega. Just he's exiting the room at this point, but just wanted to say, how much I appreciate La Gaceta and the reporting that they do, and it's a well-deserved honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any other hands raised, we'll move on to the next proclamation. Commissioner Cohen, you have the next proclamation recognizing May 2022 as Community Action Month.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Would the following individuals please join me at the podium? Hillsborough County Community Action Board Chair Joey Henderson and Board Member Raymond Wong, and Director Audrey Ziegler and managers Maria Gillis and Sharon Gordon from the Hillsborough County Department of Social Services. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to you all, and thank you for being here today. The Hillsborough County Community Action Board is instrumental in ensuring the proper disbursement of community services block grants and other sources of funds for programs that provide assistance to residents facing economic distress. Consisting of representatives from the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners and the cities of Tampa, Plant City, and Temple Terrace, the Community Action Board has been exemplary in working alongside members who advocate on behalf of low-income residents, as well as representatives of organizations interested in providing social services. I am happy to present this proclamation to Mr. Henderson, declaring May 2022 as Community Action Month. Community service block grant funds and programs that serve residents in, I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas community action agencies have been fighting poverty since 1964, when they were created as part of the United States Economic Opportunity Act, and whereas these agencies put a human face on poverty, help residents with lower incomes become self-sufficient, uplift neighborhoods, and ensure all people are able to live with dignity, and whereas community action agencies are working with the state of Florida to help guide reform of the welfare system, a partnership that enhances both entities and benefits Hillsborough County residents, and whereas these agencies contribute to Hillsborough County's most vulnerable individuals and families by providing cost-effective programs that have a profound impact on people's lives, and whereas the Hillsborough County Community Action Board guides the development, implementation, and evaluation of community service block grant funds and programs that serve residents and communities in need. And whereas the Hillsborough County Community Action Board meets regularly and serves as a fiduciary advisory board that makes recommendations based on input from residents as a guide to voice the needs of their communities, and whereas with the support of its Community Action Board, Hillsborough County promotes economic prosperity by providing opportunities for residents in need. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby declare May 2022 as Community Action Month in Hillsborough County, and urges all residents to recognize the Hillsborough County Community Action Board's efforts to improve quality of life and enhance economic opportunities for the region's most vulnerable residents. This is executed this 18th day of May 2022, and it is signed by all 7 county commissioners, and I would like to invite you to say a couple of words.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. As he said, my name is Joey Henderson. I'm the chairman of the board for the Community Action Board, endearingly known as the CAB. And in addition to the staff here today, joining me is my colleague, Mr. Wong, who represents your office, Commissioner Cohen, on the board. Let's see here. Also, I want to thank, in his absentia, Commissioner Hagan, and allowing me to represent his office for the past several years. On behalf of the Community Action Board, thank you, Commissioner Cohen and the Board of County Commissioners, for taking the time to recognize Community Action Month. With over 1,000 action agencies, community action agencies and boards throughout the United States and in Puerto Rico, our purpose is to promote self-sufficiency and not dependency. Community action originated with the passage of the Economic Opportunities Act in 1964 as part of President Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty. This ambitious purpose of the statute was to mobilize human and financial resources to combat poverty in the United States. And as the Community Action Board works hand in hand with the committed and capable staff of the Hillsborough County Social Services Department, we endeavor to wisely and effectively use the Community Services Block Grant funds to help those in greatest of need to reach self-sufficiency. Thank you again for recognizing Community Action Month, and I'd like to turn it over to our Director of our Social Services Department, Ms. Audrey Ziegler.
Thank you. Thank you, and good morning. Each May during Community Action Month, we reflect on the impact our Community Services Block Grant funding and our Community Action Board has on individuals and families here in Hillsborough County. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. I'm proud of the Social Services staff and the Community Action Board for the services and programs we continue to offer residents who face barriers to self-sufficiency. You'll see a little further in today's agenda, we'll be providing our annual update to the board on how the grant performed the last grant cycle, along with a few success stories, and I know you'll be proud. Thank you so much to Commissioner Cohen and the full Board of County Commissioners for recognizing May as Community Action Month for your ongoing support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you like to all take a picture
Absolutely.
with the board?
Get this.
And we'll take the proclamation as well.
I just want to thank everyone that is here there this morning. The work that this board does is so important to how we take care of those in our community. And this last couple of years has shown how excellent they are in focusing on the needs of those, not only those that are in poverty, but many of our residents that suddenly found themselves feeling like they were in that position as a consequence of addressing the economic changes with the pandemic. So thank you all very, very much. Excellent. So now that everybody's back seated, I'm going to recognize Ms. Wise for approval of the changes to the agenda and removal of any additional consent items.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have one off the agenda item. This is item F5 by Commissioner Smith. This is to direct the County Attorney's Office to draft an amendment to the term limit provision of the Hillsborough County Charter that would close the current loophole that allows a commissioner's term in office to be extended beyond the specific specified limit by switching seats. My apologies for that. We have several items for time certain. Item G1 at 10 a.m. is to receive the Community Service Block Grant report from the Community Action Board and Social Services. Item F1 at 10:15 is Commissioner Cohen's item to receive a presentation from Chuck Carden, General Manager of Tampa Bay Water, regarding Tampa Bay Water and the long-term master water plan update. Item E1 at 10:30 is to receive an appearance by the American Red Cross regarding hurricane season preparedness with the American Red Cross of Tampa Bay. 11:45 is recess for lunch. Those are the changes to the agenda.
Move the changes.
We have a motion by Commissioner White.
Second.
Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Smith. Please take a roll call vote.
Overman,
Yes?
Cohen,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We are on to public comment. The board welcomes comments from citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing input to the board members. However, it is requested at the same time that you address the board that comments are not directed personally against a commissioner or staff member, but rather directed to the issues. This provides mutual respect between the board and members of the public. We've set aside 45 minutes in the morning, immediately following the changes for public comment, and at the discretion of the chair, the board may again hear public comments at the end of the meeting in the event that we've exceeded that timeline. Anyone who wishes to speak virtually or in person during the meeting may do so by completing the online public comment form found at hcflgov.net/speakup. The form is open to public sign up 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting, and an option will be available to notify those comments will be provided virtually or in person at the meeting. Additionally, in-person speakers will be able to sign up at the kiosk or smartphone the day of the meeting. For participants who wish to speak virtually, who have completed the online form, an audio call-in number will be provided and once the form is received. All speakers will be required to provide their name and email address and telephone number on the online form. The information is being requested to facilitate public comment process, and signups for both virtual and in-person speaking opportunities will close at 9 a.m. on the day of the meeting. The chair will call on the speaker in the name in which the order of the requests have been received. Prioritization will come on a first-come, first-served basis. The boardroom and the multi-purpose room are designated for speakers only. Those who come to the county center to watch the meeting and not speak will be accommodated in the lobby area. Only the first 35 in-person signups will be allowed for public comment. Face coverings are strongly encouraged in the boardroom, although not required. And CDC guidance strongly recommends that unvaccinated people and those with weakened immune system continue to wear masks. The multipurpose room will be available for those that have signed up after the first 35 have registered. Speakers will be asked to please exit the boardroom at the conclusion of public comment, period. And then all virtual speakers will be muted upon joining the meeting and will be unmuted after being recognized by the chair by name. And you have 3 minutes per speaker. The first speaker I have signed up, let me see the two lists here, is speaking on A3, which is on the consent agenda, Adela Avila, and she is present in the boardroom. That's my understanding.
Madam Chair, there's no one here in the boardroom approaching the podium. I don't think she's here.
Okay, is she downstairs in the room, lobby area by some
No,
chance?
communications is indicating she's not there either.
Not physically there. Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, the next speakers are Mauricio Rosas, who's attending virtually. Mr. Rosas, you're recognized.
Yes, Commissioners, first of all, I'd like to say that there are
I think Rick Fernandez is on board. He wants to contribute his 3 minutes to me. Can you verify that?
Patience, can you verify that Mr. Fernandez is giving his 3 minutes to Mr. Rosas?
Mr. Fernandez, can you verify that, please?
Yeah, this is Rick Fernandez, and I do cede my time to my neighbor in Seminole Heights where we showed all stuff.
Excellent. Mr. Fernandez is on record of actually requesting time, so we're good to go. Mr. Rosas, you're recognized. You have 6 minutes.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to say that I had a video presentation to make today, but it cannot be viewed. And that really takes away my First Amendment rights to properly present to you what I'm asking for. So please look into that. So today I rise to this forum because I've been working on the I-275 issue for quite some time now. In October 2021, I started questioning the Department of Transportation as to why the underpasses of Chelsea, Osborne, and Florabraska were not built with vertical walls similar to Martin Luther King and Hillsborough Avenue. The answer was not because the structure did not support it. The answer was not because it wasn't available. Instead, it was because FDOT considered them low travel areas. FDOT is constantly forecasting for the city, and it shows that the city is continuing to grow in leaps and bounds, but yet when it came to these underpasses, they're like, well, you know what? Even though they meet the same criteria as Martin Luther King and as Hillsborough, because they are not doing a full reconstruction of the highway as per Secretary Gwynn, that's why we're not getting those walls to be vertical. The reality is that it was an arbitrary decision. They say that it's because of low traffic. Well, we're projecting this place to grow in leaps and bounds by the thousands, and especially this this particular thoroughfare of the I-275 corridor with Florida Avenue and Nebraska Avenue. It's been a complete waste of money to do what FDOT has done. This is a design-build project. When I began working on this with Mary Lou, with Justin Hall, with Secretary Gwen, construction had not started. They delayed it, they delayed it, they delayed it. And now we have something none of us like. If you go to Fletcher, the video that I was showing to you, and I hope you do watch it, was a similar idea of what they're calling a sloped, but with a wall, 5-foot wall. And that was supposed to create a sense of security, cleaner area. But if you go to the Fletcher Avenue intersection of 275, there's a similarly sloped with about a 4-foot, 5-foot wall. It is trashed. It's unkept. And actually, it's creepy dangerous. So I am asking this board to please go back to FDOT and ask them, you made a mistake on these underpasses. We need these underpasses to be vertical walls because it is a safety issue, and we cannot afford to have our kids walking under underpasses that are already unsafe just to make them even more unsafe. And I say our kids because we have Hillsborough High School, middle school, the library, Seminole Heights Library is there. You have all these other schools within that parameter, and safety should be number one. In fact, Florida statute says that anything along the highway, schools must be given priority to have sidewalks and those kind of amenities. They're not there. I ask this board to please go back to the drawing board with FDOT and say, you did it wrong, you need to do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosas. I happen to agree with you. The next person here to speak is in person, and that is Colonel Corey Damon. Good morning, Colonel. It's nice to see you.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, all. I'm Colonel Corey Damon, Vice Commander of the 6th Air Refueling Wing and the installation at MacDill Air Force Base. I want to thank the board for allowing me an opportunity to speak. Our military members and their families assigned to MacDill Air Force Base are experiencing significant difficulty in securing affordable, adequate, and safe housing for their assignment in the Tampa Bay community. We want to build and enhance an environment where military members and their families are able to secure sustainable, affordable, and safe housing for the duration of their assignment in the Tampa Bay area. We currently have 572 homes on the base, but rely heavily on the community to help house our service members and their families. Where they are contributing members of their community where they live. As rental prices increase, in some cases $500 to $900 a month in many of our circumstances, those increases cause families to have to make tough decisions within their own budgets. Do they stay where they are or find other affordable and workforce housing in the surrounding communities, oftentimes more than 1 hour from where they work and are relied on for the mission? These families going further and further away to stay within a family budget has the potential to impact our forces to train and respond to their missions because of the increased travel and family support challenges. We acknowledge the challenges felt by all families in this community, but the military families coming to MacDill and the Tampa Bay community are here in proud service to our nation, and they have been sent here, some by choice, by their respective military services, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Space Force. We have created a MacDill Air Force Base Community Housing and Family Resilience Task Force to help inventory the types of support programs offered in the community and connect our service members and their families to that support. Our first meeting was last Tuesday, May 10th, and we hope to be able to create immediate and long-term solutions together to help house our military workforce. Thank you for your time, your partnership, and your continued support to our military members and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Damon. I appreciate you being here today. The next speaker is Alyssa Getzoff. She's attending virtually. Ms. Getzoff, you're recognized.
Good morning. This is Alyssa Getzoff. I am, as of last night's OSHNA board meeting, the VP of the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. Thank you for allowing me to speak. In addition to supporting the vertical walls that Mauricio spoke of, we would also like to address the following issues. Remove the I-275 bus rapid transit and move it to the Veterans Expressway. No further intrusion of the barrier walls in the downtown interchange. Funding for segments D and E of the Green Artery. And landscaping on the medians of East Hillsborough and Florida and Nebraska avenues. So I know it's a long list, but nothing happens if you don't ask or demand. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for attending. The next speaker was in line was Rich Fernandez, and he gave his time to Mr. Rosa. Jason Newman is also attending virtually. Jason, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, Jason has not signed in.
Okay, thank you very much. The next speaker signed up to speak is also attending virtual, Mr. Buddy Harwell. Mr. Harwell, you're recognized.
Good morning, Commissioners. Buddy Harwell here. Just a quick note about last week's land use meeting where citizens showed up and a couple of cases were remanded or continued to the next month. I've been on that side, and it's not very pleasant to travel to the ZHM at night or to the county in the morning and find out that a case has been moved. I'm asking, is there a way we can have a sign up for each zoning, go online, type in the zoning number, and it alerts you by text or email that the case has been moved, that the case has maybe added some information to, so that way it keeps us, we don't have to keep going online 3 or 4 times a week to see, which zoning case is going where because they move around so much. Just a suggestion. Another quick note, hurricane season's coming. Is there a way we can have a hurricane preparedness week or month? Open up the disposal sites to the citizens so they can dump yard waste and trash without showing the tax documents needed. There's a lot of low-income citizens that do not have access to computers to get the proper documents that the county requires to show. I mean, if we start cleaning up, doing a march or something like that, we can, get a lot of this yard waste, debris, picked up before hurricane season comes, and that way it's not spread around whenever we do have a storm. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harwell. That was the last speaker I have signed up. Communications, are there any other speakers that either have attended virtually or in person that are interested in speaking?
Madam Chair, there are no other virtual speakers.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I'm assuming there's none downstairs. So with that, Ms. Wise, we'll move to the regular agenda until our time certain.
We do have the approval of the consent agenda first.
Excellent. Excellent. With that.
Second.
I have a motion by, I couldn't hear who made the motion?
Mariella made the motion
Thank
to
you.
approve, and Commissioner Myers, second.
Excellent. So we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Myers. Please take a roll call vote.
Overman?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. We do have time to move on to the regular agenda. The first item is item B1. This is an affordable housing development called Fulham Terrace, and Mary Helen Ferris will present this item relating to the Housing Finance Authority. We also have Cheryl Howell available for any specific questions regarding the development as well.
Thank you. Mary Helen Ferris with the County Attorney's Office, and I'm pleased to present this item, which is a request for board approval of the issuance by the Housing Finance Authority, the HFA, of $12.5 million in bonds to fund Fulham Terrace. The project is located just west of Gibsonton and US 301, fairly near my house. It will be new construction. They're building 116 units targeted for the elderly, low-income people. It will be constructed of 3-story concrete with elevators, and there are units set aside for 80% AMI, 60% AMI, 30% AMI, and 22% AMI. I'd also like to let the board know that the county is also funding this project in $6.2 million in HOPE and SHIP funds. So it's a partnership of sorts to get this development going. They are aiming to close in August of 2022, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Fine, thank you very much. Is there any discussion?
Move the item. Move the
We have
item,
a-
Commissioner
We have
Smith.
a motion by Commissioner Smith,
Second.
second by Commissioner Myers. Seeing no further comments, please take a roll call vote.
Overman,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Wise?
Thank you. We still have time before 10 o'clock, so we can move on to the commissioner items. The first one is Commissioner Hagan's item regarding code enforcement, item F2.
Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and this will be brief. I want to first of all say that the men and women of our code enforcement do a thankless job every day. They are at times verbally abused, ridiculed, and often find themselves in hazardous, even life-threatening situations. They're often used as a wedge between feuding neighbors, yet they remain professional and do an outstanding job. Last week, a story by ABC Action News investigative reporter Adam Walzer was broadcast, and the story was about a heated and belligerent dispute in my district in Lutz that's apparently been going on for some time, and frankly, the community overall is fed up. They looked toward the code enforcement department for some help and relief, but it was less than what they had hoped for. And after watching the news story, I understand why they may feel that way. So I asked my staff to look into the matter, and what we found that indeed code enforcement was doing everything that they could, given all the legal stipulations and red tape they must abide by, but while just trying to achieve compliance. We all have unfortunate stories about code violations and violators. As commissioners, we're largely prohibited from intervening in matters of enforcement, but we can help our investigators by ensuring they have all the physical and legal tools needed to efficiently and swiftly do their job. Bottom line, there may be some loopholes in our policies that allow offenders to essentially milk or game the system, if you will. In this case, we have neighbors that have been living through a nightmare for some time now, and it's negatively impacting their quality of life. So first of all, I want to thank Mr. Walzer and ABC News for highlighting this case. They helped shine a light on the mountain of legal and practical challenges that code enforcement must navigate. So it's for this reason I placed the item on the agenda, basically just hoping to establish some policy reforms that will increase the code enforcement success. So for today, I'm just going to make a motion that the Code Enforcement Department, along with our County Attorney's Office, review current policies and procedures and report back with any recommendations that they feel will aid in code enforcement's objective of achieving compliance in a more expedited manner. And that's the motion.
Second, Commissioner Smith.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner Hagan, for bringing this item forward. I have been working on a similar challenge with our code enforcement's abilities to inspect housing, multifamily housing properties that are substandard in nature. And sometimes the jurisdiction lines have become very complicated. Some are regulated by the Department of Business and Professional Regulation. Others are regulated by HUD, and others are just regulated in general by our overall code. But sometimes those different agencies aren't necessarily working together well, and there seems to be, oftentimes, it puts code enforcement in a position where they're basically hands off. So assistance in this area, I think, is critically important, especially since many of our residents are having to choose substandard housing, given the limited housing we have available. And this is going to be very important to make sure that code enforcement has an opportunity to make a difference for those families in our community. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. I don't see any other hands raised. So with that, do we have you have a motion to approve? And a second by Commissioner Smith. Please take a roll call vote.
Overman,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. The next item is Commissioner Overman, your item F3, regarding the use of American Rescue Plan dollars.
Thank you. As we discussed last week, or week before last, how we were addressing the use of the American Rescue Plan dollars and how we had used them and how we have used them, I thought it would be very helpful to address some outstanding issues that are of urgent nature as our economy has shifted as a result of the pandemic and the response economically. As you heard earlier from Colonel Damon, not only are our military and service workers, many of our junior military families that are required or stationed here, and those waiting to find housing that are due to arrive in Hillsborough County, having difficulty finding places to live, but all of our residents are. As a consequence of that, many of our individuals living in substandard housing, or as you heard earlier, seeing that their rents are increasing significant amounts beyond their budget. We're also seeing pushback from participants that have participated in housing support programs, such as the military housing allowance program, where landlords participate in offering military housing to military personnel, as well as those that have previously signed up for or have signed up for providing housing to those that are eligible for housing vouchers through HUD or other resources, as well as those that have historically received emergency rental assistance throughout the pandemic. We're seeing pushback by these landlords and increasing rents beyond what is affordable for many of our communities. That is maybe a short-term impact, but at the end of the day, we still have a very low inventory of affordable housing for anyone under 100% of average median income. And so I had asked for certainty on the American Rescue Plan to allocate the $24 million that was in the presentation on May 4th to make sure that that is awarded towards affordable housing development, and then ask additionally for the acceptance of the Affordable Housing Advisory Board's recommendation of May 9th. That was a unanimous vote to use the remaining funds presented as American Rescue Plan reserves for the use of affordable housing inventory or increasing our inventory. I do not currently have an outstanding project for the remaining $9 million because it's not been available to consider. And we have many partners out there that are interested in doing so. But without having the set aside of American Rescue Plan dollars, we will find that we don't have the resources for everything that does need to occur to create attainable, affordable workforce housing. Our HOPE dollars, as well as the dollars that we receive through various different sources for affordable housing, have some limitations that are not available or not required under American Rescue Plan. It gives us greater flexibility for addressing not only increasing density areas, but also increasing income limits in order to be able to provide housing across the spectrum and better able to utilize those tax credit programs that we have. So my request is to consider adding the remaining portion of the American Rescue Plan dollars to the affordable housing development agenda of the 24 million that was previously identified to the effort of developing, acquiring, and rehabilitation of housing in order to address the shortfall that we're seeing now. In the backup, you have a presentation that was presented to the Affordable Housing Advisory Council through the Florida Coalition, which I actually serve on at the state level, to look for ways to best utilize the American Rescue Plan dollars. And as you see there in that backup, there was significant resources offered by a variety of our partners, our sister and brother counties, that at a very high level or a high percentage. So for example, 72% of St. Petersburg's dollars, although they've received a much smaller amount, went towards affordable housing. And we have a very small percentage of our dollars going there. But given the fact that we have about less than a month's worth of inventory of rental properties out there, as well as we have a preponderance of cash buying of available housing that are going online in our community. I received an email yesterday from a program or project of homes that are ready for purchase. And the one item was, if you want to finance it, here's your option. The second bullet was, if you want to buy it for cash, here's your next option. Here's how you go about doing it. And we are seeing a high level of properties that are being purchased by investment companies that are not set aside for affordable housing, that are basically going at the highest rent possible that the market is actually demanding at the moment. Hopefully that will change over time. We are victims of our success. Many people want to be here. We live in a wonderful place. There's great jobs, great opportunities. However, we need places for people to live across all of the income streams of our economy. And that's why I'm making this request. So I would like to open it up for discussion, and I'll make a motion if they're after discussion.
Okay, so you're not making the motion yet?
No, I'd like to open it up for discussion among the board members, please, if there is any.
Can you see my hand? It's Commissioner Smith.
I can. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
All right. First of all, I want to thank the young man who came down here today from MacDill to express their concern about affordable housing for our military. And I commend the committee that he's representing and the people that he's representing for their very thoughtful framing of the issue, and not just asking for affordable housing straight up in desperation as we all are, but also understanding that the need is for affordable housing near jobs, not an hour away, that there is affordable housing an hour away, but that where the need is near jobs. And as we at the board have been talking about, is near transit and transportation to get to work and services, so that families and individuals that are struggling to own a home don't also have the additional burdens of having to provide an automobile for every single person in the household. When we discussed this last meeting, I was, and in subsequent conversations with staff, my position is unchanged. I think it's really important to keep that reserve of the $9.9 million for now, understanding that money can be spent, all of it or part of it, on affordable housing a little farther down the road. But we are dedicating $24 million of it right now, which is a lot, and holding that in reserve just in the interim for now until we understand a little bit better any other situations that might require that money. And we may then spend later all or part of it on affordable housing. But I think it is prudent to keep that in reserve for now, leaving it for a future decision. We cannot foresee another emergency that might come up. Who among us foresaw a baby formula shortage at this extent? There may be another COVID surge. We may need to spend some or all of this money facing some other unforeseen emergency. And we all know that quite often our projects that we've already dedicated ARP funding for may run into unforeseen circumstances themselves, cost overruns, or sometimes you're building a bridge and whoops, the dirt wasn't what you expected to find underneath there, and suddenly you need extra money to pull that off and to complete the project. Supply chain problems also can maybe increase costs later on down the road for the funds we've already committed to other projects from this funding source. And one other possibility is as grant matching opportunities arise, we may need some of this money in reserve to meet those grants, and they may have certain specifications of certain partners we have to work with, or be formulated in ways that it would be better to keep this money back until we understand a little bit more what's coming after this first tranche of $24 million dedicated to affordable housing. I will also point out, as we said last meeting, that the other monies that we are spending on from this fund are on very worthy, addressing really important needs. And I'll again reiterate what Commissioner Kemp and our Administrator Bonnie Wise said so eloquently at the last meeting when we discussed this, that we have a lot to be proud of in this county's addressing of our affordable housing crisis. We all understand and appreciate Commissioner Overman's leadership and passion and information on this important issue. We all share that concern and the need to address this as a priority, and we are. We spent $54 million last year towards affordable housing and additional monies towards rent and utility bill help in our ERAP program. And other social services programs. So we are doing so many things along this avenue that to be proud of, that I am most comfortable staying with the direction that that I indicated anyway, where I was at the last meeting, that I support the staff recommendation to hold this money in reserve. So that's where I'm at, and if you need to make a motion and pass the gavel, let me know, Commissioner.
Will do. Thank you very much. Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm going to be very brief because I agree really 100% with what Commissioner Smith just said. I think it is absolutely appropriate if we are able to get through the next 6-8 months without any unexpected events happening, and we all know that's unlikely. But if we are, I'd love to see us be able to use this money toward what Commissioner Overman has identified as a very important need. But I think at the moment, we really do need to just have a little bit of money in reserve. the baby formula shortage is a really, really good example of things that can come out of nowhere, particularly as it relates to the supply chain, where this amount of money could mean the difference between the county being able to act very quickly and not. And the only other thing I would add to what Commissioner Smith said is that we have not just spent the $24 million that we're going to, or we haven't spent it yet. We're going to be talking about it, I believe, on June 3rd. But there are major components within a lot of the money that we have distributed over the past 2 years or so, coming from a variety of different sources that could be classified as affordable housing, including, you mentioned, a huge amount of money that went to rental assistance. But I asked the question of staff offline, where, aside from the $24 million next week, where else was there money embedded in a lot of what we've done? And the answer is there's a lot of it. And I know the county administrator could go through the detail of that, but I'm comfortable that with the amount of money that we've had, that we have made a really sizable impact. And if we can do something more with the remaining $10 million down the road, I'd love to see us do it. But I think we should just hold it in abeyance for the moment, just as a matter of prudence.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. Are there any other comments? I don't see anyone else.
Commissioner Myers is indicating she's got her
My hand is up,
think.
Madam Chair.
Sorry. It just didn't pop up. My apologies. Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not going to repeat everything that Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Cohen has just said, but I concur to what you all have just said to us. But I would also like to be consistent in what I said at the Affordable Housing meeting last week, is that I'm not going to support this item today. We look at the reserve of the county funds, and we need to make sure that the county has its funds available when needed. And I'm still standing on that today. We cannot just, even though affordable housing is a crisis, we all know that throughout the nation, but here in Hillsborough County, we need to keep our reserve to address whatever items that will come before us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I just want to point out that we did and we have done a significant amount of work when it comes to addressing the crisis caused by the pandemic. The CARES dollars and the the rental assistance dollars are part of our ARP, but those dollars also came from the state as well. And they actually did address the immediate negative economic impacts. ARP dollars are specifically used for developing a long-term strategy towards addressing the negative impacts of the COVID-19. For example, as we did, assisting households with emergency housing needs, repairs, and weatherization. We did that. That was awesome. We did develop programs and have used funds to help with the operation of affordable housing and making sure that some housing is made available with the Youngstown project. We did provide housing vouchers and relocation assistance through the wonderful folks we saw this morning through our social services department that are working very hard, along with Tampa Tampa Hillsborough Homeless Initiative and the partnerships there. And we are continuing out of our overall housing budget to look for vacant and abandoned properties to see if there's opportunities there. And I appreciate the board's policy of moving properties over to affordable housing for utilization and development of housing. That is true. However, ARP money is not eligible for debt service. It is not a contribution to a reserve fund. It is not to be used as a reduction of net tax revenue. It's not to be used for settlement of judgments. And the project, no project that conflicts with the purpose of the American Rescue Plan should be under consideration. The dollars I'm recommending, and we can address it once we actually have a project. So I'm willing to table the item for a future concern. But the funds are primarily to be used for those that are either impacted or disproportionately impacted. And the disproportionately impacted has to do with how we have developed a short-term Band-Aid to the impact on communities that were and families that were not able to work or had to care for families or experienced a lack of child care available so that they could return to work. And that's what the ERAP program did. It was limited to a certain period of time. It does not provide long-term stable housing. And as we are experiencing, we're finding landlords hesitant, even though it may be a violation of the Tenant Bill of Rights that we adopted this in the last couple of years, that individuals are still finding difficult how to use those funds and are not able to use them when their rents and their leases are up. So those are those that are disproportionately impacted. Those that are impacted, for as example, are what we heard from Colonel Damon. The vice commander came to us to help us understand that it is a risk that they are having difficulty managing. And finding partnerships with either developers, home builders, or apartment complexes that can provide housing with potential assistance is important and urgent. Any project that we break ground on or get close to breaking ground, or at least decide we're going to, is going to take at least 2 years before we ever have one place available for a family, which is why I brought it up now. Because 2 years from now, we might have another set of units with these dollars. And holding them in reserve delays that process even more urgently. So I won't make a motion today. I do want to see the item come back next meeting for the 24 million, and I hope that we get the board's support on that. But I would like to remind the board that every day we delay in committing towards additional units, additional housing, allows, unfortunately, the market continue to raise rates and have people moving to other counties. I spoke with United Way yesterday, by the way, and they've been our great partner in assisting and finding housing and helping out with relocation support. They're one of our partners with our social services department, and we've used our monies for helping them help us. But what they're finding is they're having to help families move out of Hillsborough County because there is just no inventory here for them to move to. We are in an urgent crisis, and it'll take us 2 years to fix that. The folks at McDill have largely landed historically in Fishhawk, moved to Riverview, and now they're moving to Manatee. And without a ferry to help them expedite their ability to get to the base, our military personnel are not able to respond in a timely fashion, given the length of the commute it takes for them to access housing and yet still have to be on call, on duty 24/7. So I will urge my board to consider if we're able to find a project, to consider some portion of that $9 million left to go towards a very urgent need that we have in our community. And I'll stop there. I don't see any other comments. I see Commissioner Myers' a hand raised. Commissioner Kemp is here. Thank you very much for joining us. I wanted to recognize that you're present. Did you want to say something?
Thanks. No, I just wanted to also just recognize my presence. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Myers, your hand's still up.
It's showing me it's lowered.
Okay, I can still see it. That's okay. I assume you're not willing to say anything more. So with that,
I would love to say something else.
Sure, go right ahead, please.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we heard your plead on affordable housing, but been listening at the board and the board comments, I don't think you will have the vote today or in the future where we stand as board members. We just voted 2 weeks ago on this item, and it appears from listening to my colleagues, we're going to stand strong and support the direction of the county administrator and with our reserve funds where we need to be in the future. So I just want to share that with you because you're planning to bring this back, and I'm pretty sure it appears that the vote of no will still be remaining in the future. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. So for the record, you're suggesting that the Board of County Commission is not going to commit additional dollars other than the $24 million that we have allocated towards the American Rescue Plan at the moment. And I guess with that, we can move on to the next agenda.
Madam Chair, we can now move on to the 10 o'clock items, and that item is item G1. This is to receive the Community Service Block Grant Report from the Community Action Board and Social Services. And we have staff in the room, and Sharon Gordon is going to present this item.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon, for being here. I'm looking forward to your report.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sharon Gordon, Grants Compliance Manager with the Department of Social Services. Co-presenting with me today is Joey Henderson, our Community Action Board, and also with us is our Department Director, Audrey Ziegler, and Division Director, Maria Gillis. We do have a presentation on screen. Okay. If not, I brought it with me again.
Madam Chair, we're just working through some technical issues trying to get the presentation loaded.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Perfect, thank you so much. Okay, so we did the introductions. Today we are presenting to you an overview of the Community Service Block Grant for program year April 2021 to March 2022. CSBG, also known as Community Service Block Grant, is one of several grants administered by Social Services to assist low-income residents. Combining all of the services and funding, Social Services has served 8,863 unduplicated households, impacting 23,540 unduplicated individuals last fiscal year. For the purpose of today, we will be focusing solely on our CSBG grant. So I'm going to turn it over to Joey Henderson, and who will provide an overview of the Community Services Block Grant.
Thank you, Ms. Gordon, and good morning again, Commissioners. And I hope that I can see this. Community Services Block Grant, CSBG overview. Federal Anti-Poverty Block Grant passed through the state's Department of Economic Opportunity, Hillsborough County. The CSBG goals are to assist low-income eligible individuals and families attain the adequate education, secure and retain meaningful employment, improve the use of available income and wealth building, obtain and maintain safe housing, obtain emergency assistance, including health and nutrition services, remove obstacles to reaching self-sufficiency, and achieve greater participation in the affairs of the community. Fiduciary oversight. Community Action Board has a board of 21 members. Funding allocations include the CSBG from April 1, 2021 to March 31st, 2022 in the sum of $1.7 million. The CSBG CARES funds ran from June 1st, 2020 and will go to September 30th, 2022 in the sum of $2.3 million. And I think that is all that I need to do. And I just want to say, once again, we really appreciate all the support that we get from BOCC in supporting those who are in greatest of need. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. So to note a few of our accomplishments for this program year that we're reporting, in collaboration with the Community Action Board, Social Services completed its triennial community-wide needs assessment and identified the top needs reported by economically disadvantaged residents and community agencies. The top needs that they reported are safe and affordable housing, adequate transportation services, education, vocational training, higher wage employment, employment opportunities, and knowledge of services that are available in the community. This needs assessment is a tool that's used by our Community Action Board and Social Services to identify, plan, and develop relevant programs and services for our target population. Another accomplishment using the CSBG and CSBG CARES funds is that we were able to develop and expand our partnerships in the community to fund services that support the goals of the Community Services Block Grant. So you'll see an illustration here of the Community Services Block Grant. Out of the $1.7 million distributed to Hillsborough County, 55% supports direct client assistance. So that's a little over $948,000. And the funding supported programs in education empowerment, community engagement, youth empowerment, and family empowerment programs. And I'll give you a brief description of each of those program categories. So for education empowerment, we continued our long-standing partnership with the Hillsborough County Public Schools, career and technical education for various certifications. We established a new partnership with the Suncoast Career Academy to provide medical certification programs. The CSBG grant covers the tuition and supply cost of income-eligible residents pursuing their education with these institutions. And we're proud to say that 68% of our participants who attended Hillsborough County Public Schools earned their GED certificates or technical certification during this reporting period. For our community engagement category, Social Service continued its partnership with the Feeding Tampa Bay, and we funded 12 mobile food pantry events with this grant. Over 105,000 pounds of food were distributed to 2,009 households. We also partnered with local nonprofits to provide financial literacy and self-esteem building workshops for our target population. For our youth empowerment category, Social Services continued its partnership with Hillsborough County Parks and Recreation for after-school and summer camp services. We also developed a new partnership with the Hillsborough County Public Schools Brandon Education Prevention and Intervention Centers, which is an alternative school for students who are going through some challenges. And with that, they were able to help these students develop social skills, tutoring, and self-esteem building. Also, under this category with our Community Action Board Scholarship Program, we awarded 64 students attending 4- and 2-year institutions scholarships of up to $5,000 to alleviate the financial burden of tuition and related costs. And lastly, our Family Empowerment Program, which is one of our core programs, Social Services assisted over 200 families in developing short and long-term goals for financial self-sufficiency. So support services are available in this program to alleviate barriers to achieving their goals. Some of the support services include rental or mortgage assistance, utility assistance, child care financial assistance. We also collaborate with the Career Source of Tampa Bay, Dress for Success, and the Hillsborough County Extension Office to help our program participants with employment readiness and financial management skills. For our Community Services Block Grant CARES funds, the CARES funds is supplemental funds to our CSBG funds to address the COVID-19 pandemic, just as an explanation. So out of the $2.3 million awarded to social services, a little over $1.2 million supports direct client assistance. In collaboration with the Community Action Board, social services allocated a significant portion of those funds to crisis assistance, which provided financial assistance to income-eligible residents for mortgage, rental, electricity, and water, which we paid directly to our vendors, to their landlords, and to the utility companies. We've also partnered with several agencies with this grant, and I'll list 3 of them. Feeding Tampa Bay Fresh Forest Program, which provided training, education, and job experience to adults and youth in the culinary warehouse and CDL training programs. We partnered with Corporation to develop Communities of Tampa, Inc. for their pre-apprenticeship training, and Hillsborough County Education Foundation and Tampa Housing Authority to address the digital divide for our low-income families. And some numbers: between these 2 partners, 442 school-aged youth impacting over 197 families received technological resources to support their online learning platform. We have 3 success stories. We have many, but for the sake of time, we'll focus we'll start with the CAB Scholarship Program. And this is Gabriella. Sorry, I'm going to have to look this way because I can't see that far. So Ms. Gabriella, she pursued her educational goals. She earned her Bachelor's of Psychology from the University of South Florida. She graduated in 2021. She's a twice recipient of the Community Action Board Scholarship. She received $10,000 towards the cost of her undergraduate degree. And for our e-learning resource and support, one of our families, Kenithia, she is one of 197 families who receive tablets for their children for school homework and studying to support their academic achievement through their e-learning platform. And then in our family empowerment program, we have Mozan. He enrolled at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, and his goal was to obtain full-time employment and enroll in and complete his HVAC certification. And during his time, he completed his certification, and he completed his financial literacy courses. He obtained gainful employment as a customer advocate, and he received enough wages where he would no longer be eligible for our CSBG program. So that is great news. And then our last slide, we would definitely thank you, commissioners, for your support. We also want to thank our Community Action Board members, the Social Services Department, all of the Human Services Department, our community partners, contracted partners, and residents of Hillsborough County. Thank you all so much for your support, and we are here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you so very, very much for that report. Ms. Ziegler, did you have some words you'd like to offer?
I did. I'll be brief. Good morning again, Audrey Ziegler, Social Services Department. I just want to highlight for you the dollar amount of this grant, as you can tell, is not as high as some of the other grants and services and programs we offer. But what Ms. Gordon just showed you is a lot of work that's involved with case management, with helping people remove barriers to self-sufficiency. It's not an easy job, and we do a lot with a little. And I wanted to highlight that because I didn't want that to go without being said, that the dollar amount isn't where it should be for self-sufficiency programs. But we do a lot with a little, and the board definitely helps and supports us as you do. So thank you again, and we are here for questions. I just wanted to highlight that because I didn't want the dollar amount to skew your opinion of what that grant can do.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Myers, I see your hand up.
Gee, Madam Chair, I was just trying to find the button to raise my hand. So I don't know what's going on over here. But nevertheless, to Ms. Ziegler and her staff, thank you for what you do for our community. Most people come to CAB for assistance, also the social services. You all are first faces. I commend you all. 1,001% just taking care of our community. Thank you. Your service is priceless for what you do for Hillsborough County government.
Excellent. Are there any other hands raised? Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
There we go. Yes, I just want to also commend Ms. Ziegler and staff for social services in the county. It's just incredible work. Whenever I go to the programs, I can literally feel the love that is there, and our services that we offer are, to my witness, just pretty amazing, and I've heard so also from residents in the county. So thank you very much for all your work, and thank you for pointing out too, not necessarily the budget, but this is the intense kind of hard work that we have to depend on this staff to do and take such care when they're doing it. So thank you very much, and we're very proud of our social services staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Kemp. I echo what was said by both you and Commissioner Myers. We deal with this staff daily, absolutely daily. And I can't tell you, there are angels among us within your department. So I really, truly appreciate all that you do for our community, and that you truly are Hillsborough heroes. What I am most impressed with this report is that when you researched the greatest needs, the top needs were affordable and safe housing and adequate transportation services. So this board has an opportunity, not only with our CDBG monies, but with our other resources, to focus on the greatest needs that you've identified. And I truly appreciate that effort and everything that you've been able to do to help our citizens survive through the challenges they've been working through over the last few years that have been exceptional. The good news is also you're here when we're not in a pandemic. You're providing these services to those individuals who just need a hand up in order to be successful in life, and to give them the tools. And that's what's so wonderful about these programs, and how you focused the resources you've allocated in this last year. So thank you so much for your work. And with that, I don't see, we did have a motion to receive the report.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner White, a second by Commissioner Myers. Please take a roll call vote.
Overman?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. And I, too, would like to thank Audrey Ziegler and her staff. It has, as the chair stated, they're just not here during a pandemic, but during the pandemic, the extra work and how they have worked together with other county departments has been incredible. And so a big thanks to all of you and to the CAB for getting us through this pandemic and doing it in such fine fashion. Our next item is item F1. This is to have a presentation by General Manager of Tampa Bay Water, Chuck Carden. This is Commissioner Cohen's item, and Chair Overman, George Cassidy, Assistant County Administrator, is in the room here as well for any questions that may arise. This is Commissioner Cohen's item, and perhaps Commissioner Smith may have comments too.
Commissioner Cohen, do you want to?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me just be brief. On behalf of Commissioner Smith, who serves as the Vice Chair of Tampa Bay Water, and myself, we want to welcome Chuck Carden here this morning. It's really a great opportunity for Tampa Bay Water to be able to brief this board on the long-term master water plan. Everyone knows that availability of water is absolutely at the very top of the list of what government is responsible for. We've had a lot of challenges in South County in recent years that have underscored the importance of this work. And I think Mr. Carden's going to be able to bring everyone a lot of good information about what the state of our water supply is and what our plans are to make sure that we have these resources in the future. And I know Commissioner Kemp and Hagan have both served on Tampa Bay Water before. I can only say for myself, and I believe for Commissioner Smith, it's very challenging work. And we are grateful to be able to represent Hillsborough County on such an important board. So if believe Mr. Carden is with us virtually this morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I am very happy to be here today.
As you know, Tampa Bay Water was created by our member governments almost 25 years ago. Next year is our 25th anniversary, and we are your sole and exclusive drinking water provider. The next slide, please. Next one, please. Thank you. The local government's decision to create Tampa Bay Water back in 1998 was one of the major reasons the economy and our environment has thrived for the past 25 years. Water fuels our economy, and we build a diversified, interconnected system that has supplied our region for more than 2 decades in a very environmentally sound manner. Next, please. This pie chart here is our current sources as of this year. There are 3 sources that we rely on, the desalinated seawater, river water, and groundwater. And all combined, we are producing about 188 million gallons per day right now. And if we went back 25 years ago, this pie chart would just be 100% groundwater. And so that is the big difference that we made being created back then. We've diversified our portfolio, and we have surface water and the desal, and you can see the different percentages. Right now, we do have enough water to get us through the next 7 years, but with the thriving economy and the population growth that we're seeing, we need more water. Next, please. These charts here show the demands by our members, and as you can see, and you already know, Hillsborough County is our greatest customer in terms of demand. These comparisons show where we are now and some projections out 5 years, and you can see Hillsborough County is leading the way, about 71 million gallons today. And then in the future, not too far future, a little less than 80 million gallons a day. And you can also see the growth in Pasco County is right behind with the city of Tampa. Right now, we're working to bring new sources online by the year 2028 to meet this growing need. Next slide, please. Since 2018, we've been studying 3 new water supply options to determine which ones are feasible for the next water supply for the region. There's one project you're very familiar with, the new groundwater well field in southern Hillsborough County, which would be made possible by aquifer recharge credits. The second project is an expansion to our existing surface water treatment plant. And then the third is expanding our seawater desalination plant. On Monday, at our Tampa Bay Water Board meeting, the board voted to remove the proposed South Hillsborough well field from consideration, but they also agreed they would put it back in the long-term master water plan at a later time, which would start, in 2023. We were not able to negotiate terms for a long-term agreement with Hillsborough County for this project. So we'll be concentrating our efforts on 2 of these projects to meet the next supply needs. Next slide, please. The surface water treatment plant expansion could yield us between 10 and 15 million gallons a day to help us maximize our current permitted surface water withdrawals. The project does include 2 options, the first being expansion at the existing site, which is off of Columbus Drive, is real close to the fairgrounds. And the second option is to build a brand new surface water treatment plant down by the reservoir on some of the land right adjacent to the reservoir. The capital cost for this project range from $91 million to $146 million. And the cost per 1,000 gallons range from $1.44 to $2.31. Next, please. The desalination plant is very important to our system. It is truly our drought-proof supply. and it can meet up to 10% of the region's drinking water needs. The facility could be expanded to produce an additional 10 million gallons per day, but it is a highly mechanical facility, and you'll see with the higher capital cost ranging from $310 million to $365 million, and the cost per 1,000 gallons is $8.56. Next slide, please. As I mentioned cost in the previous two slides, cost is not the only factor that we will be considering when we select the new project or combination. We will be also considering environmental sustainability and reliability. Under each of these headings, there is some detailed criteria. For example, cost includes capital cost, operations and maintenance cost, life cycle cost, and whether the project can be phased or not. Environmental stewardship includes permitting, carbon footprint, and public acceptance. And reliability includes resiliency, technology, risk factors, and how the project fits into our overall system. Next, please. Over the next few months, we will be discussing these project concepts with your utility director, the public, and with our board. Our board is expected to make a decision on the new project between August and December. We did discuss this Monday, and it's likely we'll be back in front of the board with a recommendation in August. We originally targeted later in the year, but we are looking at things and think we can wrap up and have something in front of the board in August. Next, please. And that concludes my presentation. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any questions at the moment.
I think Commissioner Smith has her hand up, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith, you do. You do. Thank you. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you. I was pressing the clapping hands, not the raising hands there. But the clapping applies as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Carden, for being with us today and helping our board to understand what's going on at this Tampa Bay water level that is so important to all of our citizens. I really appreciate the presentation. I think Commissioner Cohen and I both agree that we always get really good, informative presentations from Tampa Bay Water, and I appreciate the work that goes into that. Still, our South County citizens are suffering. I'm still getting email from South County citizens about water supply and water pressure issues. I myself am suffering water pressure issues, and I understand that we are moving quickly to address those, and we will be having those addressed really soon. I also just saw maps yesterday that indicate my neighborhood will be among the last to be brought into the higher water pressure solutions, but that's fair. My concern today, while we have this great opportunity to discuss this with our staff in the room and Mr. Carden online, is that our South County citizens are also suffering from the lack of water supply, that the way growth has been outstripping our water supply. And so our citizens south of the Alafaya River are on stricter water restrictions. They are limited to how they can take care of their landscape to a greater extent than anyone else in Hillsborough County, maybe anyone else in the Tampa Bay water region. And we've been addressing that. We've been spending $150 million on our end in our county for our piece of the infrastructure that hooks up to receiving and distributing Tampa Bay water, water that they distribute to us on a wholesale level. But we have also begun putting zoning restrictions, extra zoning conditions on every new development that comes in south of the Alafaya River and say, we don't have enough water south of the Alafaya River for you to hook up until we've put these other pieces of infrastructure in place. I mean, we are doing everything, and our system is now stretched to the max. There's no more elasticity in what we can do. And we've asked our citizens to conserve water. We know that after 2028, late in 2028 at the earliest, maybe 2029, we will have plenty of water according to the Tampa Bay Water Plan. But for the next 6 years, water supply will be a problem for South Hillsborough County. And in fact, Tampa Bay Water is currently only able to meet South County water needs by pumping more and more out of the South Hillsborough well fields, exceeding the daily limits and exceeding the rolling annual average limits. Those limits are there for a reason. SwiftMud, the state, puts specific limits on how much anybody, a farmer here, a water resource there, can withdraw here, there, and everywhere, because that's the limit you can withdraw without impacting the environment. And Tampa Bay Water is having to go again and again to overpumping, exceeding those limits that were set to protect our natural resources. The permit that we have is currently 24.1 million gallons a day. We are, as the Tampa Bay Water Board, I'm we on the Tampa Bay Water Board, I'm we on the County Commission, but Tampa Bay Water is asking for it to be raised to 29.1 million gallons a day. It temporarily, just to get through, is that right? 24, I knew it was wrong. 24.9, so it's just a little bit. It's at 24.1 now, we're asking for 24.9. And then only asking for that through this critical 6-year trouble period to get through the next 6 years. But Tampa Bay Water is routinely pumping more than even that, 24.9, on a daily basis. They pumped 37.66 million gallons a day on Monday. This is the dry period, but that's a lot more than what the limit is. The limit is almost 25, and they're at almost 38 million gallons a day. And there's no reason to hope that that need for overpumping will be slowing down in the next 6 years. In fact, I mean, we're still growing. We're not slowing down here. I know that everyone on the Tampa Bay Water Board and staff cares about our natural resources. But at the Tampa Bay Water level, board level, they're looking at, well, overpumping may run into the sanctions or fines of going past the SwiftMud limits, the state limits. In Hillsborough County, the stake is a little more what's at stake is a little more personal than the fines. The pumping is happening in our county. It is putting our environment, our wetlands, and our residential wells on the line. We've all seen the negative impacts to our environment from overpumping, first in the northeast part of Hillsborough County, which started the water wars and led to the creation of Tampa Bay Water. Lakes dried up, trees had massive die-offs, wells were impacted, and we do not want that to happen again in South County as this overpumping continues over the next 6 years. It is time now to look at how we can, other solutions for addressing that besides just waiting. for it to continue occurring over 6 years. And there may be a way that we can alleviate this problem in the interim and supply additional water while we wait for additional infrastructure to come online in late 2028. We can generate extra fresh groundwater through our county's SHARP program. We can get 2 to 3 million gallons a day more out of that, and that could go a long way to alleviating the need for overpumping. Now, the Tampa Bay Water Board on Monday voted to take that extra groundwater we could be generating off the table for their 5-year water supply plan. But that water is still there. And we could still use it in our county in this interim to get us over the hump and protect our natural resources and our citizens' wells. In discussions with staff, and our staff has been discussing this option with the Tampa Bay Water staff, it looks like it may be feasible for our county to use that water to supply Hillsborough's needs just in a temporary stopgap measure while we're waiting for Tampa Bay Water to get their next infrastructure online. And so I'd like to ask Mr. Cassidy to explain, in case I got any of those details wrong, about what might be a possible interim alternative, given that Tampa Bay Water has voted not to do this in a long-term way. What we might suggest to Tampa Bay Water from Hillsborough County that we look at.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. George Cassidy, Public Utilities. And so this is a really complicated matter. It's not simple, and it's not anything that you can just lightly dive into and think you've got it all figured out. It's complicated. Tampa Bay Water has been a great partner of Hillsborough County, and we have worked very closely to look at what the opportunities were long-term to bring this SHARP groundwater credit system into play. We could not get to a satisfactory terms and conditions. So they backed out of the long-term agreement. But we think there's an opportunity for a shorter term, as you characterize it, maybe a gap filler. Tampa Bay Water has said on a number of occasions they've got all the water that we need, but it's in the wrong place. And so they're working on projects that moves water from other areas of their transmission system into South County. That will not be online until 2028. And in the meantime, our population is growing, the thirst is growing. If we had 50 million gallons of use today, this time next year it's going to be 51, following year it's going to be 52, and so on. It keeps growing. If we've got a lack or a concern of adequate supply now, it only exacerbates with every coming year until 2028 when they have robust delivery systems in place. And then all of this is solved. We believe that the short-term opportunity with SHARP could be that Hillsborough County develops the well field that's necessary to withdraw the water. We could pay for it. We could operate it. We could add a couple of more million gallons into the supply. We believe that is a viable opportunity. It would, of course, require Tampa Bay Water support. We would have to work together to make that happen. We need to partner on permitting the activities, make sure that it comports to all of their requirements, but we believe we can get there. We just need to move on it. We really believe that this is not something that we can debate or talk about for the next couple of years. It is critical that we add capabilities down south because we're thirsty today, and it's only going to be more thirsty next year and the following year until 2028. And you know what? You want to talk about something that keeps the utility person up at night, it's the fear of running out of water. And that's about where we are.
Thank you. If I still have the floor, just,
yeah, sure.
You know what I'm thinking might be a good idea is, because I just think this is a good opportunity to, while we have Mr. Carden right here, and for once, Commissioner Cohen and I can be discussing these issues with you all in the sunshine, which is, otherwise prohibited. I think I'm looking for a way we can make a motion today to send our concerns and suggestions over to Tampa Bay Water to get that ball rolling, at least in exploring and considering and having, I'm sure, the attorneys involved in how this could legally work within our ILA, interlocal agreement with Tampa Bay Water. But before I do, I would just like to ask Mr. Carden if he has anything else to add or to suggest about the best way for us today to proceed to provide a little impetus and direction to begin that discussion, which I understand was, not really, we didn't give that direction at Tampa Bay Water. Yes, Monday we gave direction to take off the long term, but he's missing that direction for the short term is my understanding. But let me ask Mr. Carden if you have anything to add to this discussion.
Yes, and yes, I do. I will echo Mr. Cassidy's comments. We've been working very well with the county over the last probably year and a half, 2 years. We meet every 2 weeks. We have developed a long-term solution for South County and as well as a short-term solution. And so that is reported to the board every month. The long-term, Mr. Cassidy suggested, has been the pipelines in 2028. Those are well underway with route studies, and we are right on schedule. Short-term solutions that we have implemented include a new valve that we just put into service in March that is bringing an additional 1 million gallons a day to the numbers we heard earlier. And we're putting in a pump station. It's a temporary pump station for now, right off of Durant Road, and that will be online in July of this year, and that is an additional 5 million gallons a day to that. And then that pump station will be turned into a permanent pump station sometime late next year. That'll be an additional 2 million gallons a day. So, adding those up, that's 8 million gallons or so of additional temporary things that we're putting into place that will turn in, they can be there forever. However, I will acknowledge that into the future, until 2028, it is very tight. Those projects don't completely get us out of the woods. And I did want to say that what we're talking about here is, the permitted limits. It's not that we'll run out of water. We have plenty of machine capacity to provide the water to the residents. That is not at issue here, other than the permit limit that you talked about earlier. We are currently on an annual average basis running 25.95 million gallons a day out of that well field. It is permitted, as you said, 24.1 million gallons a day, and we're trying to add 850,000 gallons to make it 24.95 on an annual average basis. And that is key because, we do run that plant at different volumes during the year, depending on when it is. We are running it in the higher 30 million gallon range, as you say, but that is how we do it every year. At times we run it at 19, well less than the permit limit, as long as we're averaging the 24.1. And we are over the limit right now. As these improvements come online, we're hoping to be back under the permit at the end of the year. Speaking, on Monday, the board did vote to take the long-term master water plan, this project out because we couldn't get to a long-term agreement. There was a proposal from the county that Mr. Cassidy sent over to us, and that was attached to the item as well, and that was a short-term proposal. The board did not take direction, as Commissioner Smith said, and I'm hoping for discussion of that. And so, without having that discussion, I do plan to bring something to the board in June to see if we can have further discussion on that short-term project, which includes, I think, 2 wells right now in that well field. It's the full project would yield 6.1 million gallons a day, and it was eight wells. So we have had discussions. Mr. Cassidy and I have had discussions of a smaller project in phases, and that would be 2 to 3 wells initially. That could yield a little over 2 million gallons a day. And so, as you suggest, every little drop will help. That will help as we go forward. So I would be happy to do that. I have plans to bring it to our June board meeting for some direction on the shorter term proposal that we did receive.
Thank you. And I'll hold back, I think, and listen to a little more board discussion before but I would like to be recognized later for a motion.
Okay, I do see that Commissioner Cohen has his hand raised.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And like Commissioner Smith, I'm really thrilled that we're having this discussion today because it allows us to work through some really important issues. And I want to start off by also complimenting Mr. Carden and Tampa Bay Water. When you think about the fact that Tampa Bay Water made an effort to increase its permitted capacity in South County by only 800,000 gallons, because that's all that they could ask for additional to what's already permitted. It really does show you that they are looking literally for every last drop of water to try to get us through this crisis. And the interim steps that they're taking are very, very significant and in no way should be minimized. The new pumps, everything they're doing as quickly as they possibly can. But there's no question that the gap really does exist. And what I think the direction that I hear us moving toward here of creating an interim solution to our problem sounds like a no-brainer. But I'm going to tell you what I think the concern will be on the other side so that we can understand where the sensitivities are here. This is essentially allowing us to think outside the box and create our own water supply for a discrete period of time to meet a very real need. But some of the other member governments don't necessarily have the ability to do that should they find themselves in the same situation. So I think they have to trust us that in doing this, it's not the first step toward blowing up the Tampa Bay Water Master Agreement. And I just think it's very, very important that we say that that's not our intention at all, that our intention is to work with Tampa Bay Water to think outside the box, to create a solution that gets us through this interim period. Mr. Carden mentioned the issue of pumping over the permitted capacity, and it was earlier mentioned that for Tampa Bay Water, it ultimately would be about fines. But for us, there really is a concern that we could compromise people's wells, that we could have enhanced saltwater intrusion. There are some real reasons that SwiftMud is so precise about how much water they'll let us pump. So I want to lend my voice in support of where I hear that this is going, but I want to make it very clear that this is something that we're trying to do to help Tampa Bay Water help us through this crisis. We're not trying to put ourselves into their shoes and blow up the whole arrangement, because that will be a concern from the other governments, and I think we should say head on that that's not our intention.
Excellent. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I completely agree, and I'm sure that everyone here in Hillsborough County shares our understanding of the importance of the delicate relationship that we have all forged in Tampa Bay Water that actually led to the recovery of our environmental systems in the Northeast by working together to end those water wars and end that overpumping. So actually, over time, cypress groves and our environment have again begun recovering. But that's been a long process to recover. It's always better to prevent the environmental damage from occurring up front. It's cheaper. It's easier than to have to pull it back and recover after the damage has been done. And as I look at the prospect of continued overpumping for the next 6 years of the South Hillsborough County well fields, I think it's important that we really begin now working together to do everything we can together, certainly assuring our partners in Tampa Bay Water that we are all in that boat together and mean to continue. So with that, and I also appreciate the short-term efforts and measures that Tampa Bay Water has taken of the new valve put in, even with supply chain issues and everything. They've really been rushing and working to get the new pump station to come in temporarily. But those things are still, we're still overpumping. And we're still, projected to be overpumping. As Mr. Carden says, there's days when we don't need to, but actually now the annual average is being exceeded on a rolling basis. And so I'm going to make a motion that this board send a letter. I'm open to my colleagues' any suggestions about whether this is the way to go, but I'm just going to put this out there as an idea. To send a letter from our county's Board of County Commissioners, signed by Commissioner Overman, our chair, to the Tampa Bay Water Board and General Manager, expressing Hillsborough County's concerns about the overpumping of our South Hillsborough well fields, because just to also say, there's several sources for water. And to express our concern for not taking maybe the easiest, cheapest, and going with the fine sometimes when we'd rather go with other sources. So to express our concerns about the overpumping of our South Hillsborough well fields and the risk of negative impacts to the environment and local wells with continued overpumping over the next 6 years, and to request that they work together with our county on a near-term solution to cease that overpumping or reduce that overpumping maybe of the South Hillsborough well fields as soon as possible, and by supporting a short-term plan that would allow additional groundwater to be produced via our SHARP credits, perhaps by letting us self-fund a short-term solution if our county attorneys can all work together on how that might work. But certainly beginning the letter with our appreciation of our partnership and relationship with Tampa Bay Water, and just indicating that as we succeeded in the past of preventing these sorts of damages in the Northeast, we want to make sure that we're looking forward to preventing those things with less groundwater pumping in the South, and take a serious look at this near-term solution that Mr. Carden and Mr. Cassidy have outlined.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Cohen. Commissioner Smith, for the clerk's edification, could you restate your motion as succinctly as you can?
So it's to send a letter that would begin with our appreciation of our relationship with Tampa Bay Water and our understanding and appreciation and the desire to continue working together to protect our natural resources and provide drinking water, but also expressing our concerns about, importantly, expressing our concerns about the overpumping of our South Hillsborough well fields, and the risk of negative impacts to the environment and local wells with continued overpumping over the next 6 years, and to request that they work together on the near-term solutions that we've discussed here today.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that clarification. So we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Cohen, if I'm not mistaken. And I see Commissioner Myers, your hand's up before we take a vote.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Smith, would you like to put a time frame that we get a report back in 60 days or 90 days so we get to have an update?
Thank you very much. Yes, that's a great idea to add that this board would get a report back in 60 to 90 days about the progress thank you. And also to indicate that we want to send this letter so the board members will have it in time for their June meeting, as Mr. Carden indicated that he was intending to bring this back there anyway. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other further comment at this point.
Madam Chair, I think I have also had my hand raised. I just wanted to add, first of all, I think that it's really important to send this letter because we have to give Tampa Bay Water something to respond to. This will actually formally get the ball rolling in terms of what will be some negotiations. The second thing I wanted to just highlight is that Commissioner Smith's motion mentioned no cost to Tampa Bay Water. This is something that we would be paying to develop, and I think that's really important because the one thing that was questioned, this did come up on Monday a little bit, and the one question that was asked to be clarified was who was going to bear the cost of this, and it would be us. We're not asking Tampa Bay Water to fund our solution. But I think this is an excellent idea, and I'm enthusiastically in support of sending this letter and getting the ball rolling with Tampa Bay Water.
And if I may just suggest that we work together with Mr. Cassidy and possibly Commissioner Cohen and I could take a look at it before it goes across.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank Commissioners Cohen and Smith for the presentation this morning. I did serve on Tampa Bay Water. I know it's a very, very heavy lift and has gotten heavier since I left. And I understand many, many more meetings. And then we have this situation here. So thank you for the explanation and for getting our support this morning. And I did just, it seems to me, from what I can understand about this, and it's very hard, even with some background in Tampa Bay Water and paying attention, to wrap your head around everything that's needed and important about this. And certainly water is our number one most critical need for continue to live here for our residents. At least drinking water and water for use, personal use. But it seems to me that by not taking these measures, that we could actually endanger our long-term water supply by things like saltwater intrusion. And I just wondered if that's accurate, because it's our water supply that supplies the region, if I have that right, including Pinellas and Pasco counties. And by not taking measures like SHARP, that we might be compromising that water source.
Thank you, Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Cohen, your hand's up.
That was a question. If anybody wanted to.
The answering the saltwater intrusion, on the coast, the county has already have plans, and they're doing the injection wells to prevent that. the well field that we've discussed today, the South Central Regional, is inland and would not be affected by saltwater intrusion that far inland. So the county is taking proactive measures to abate the saltwater intrusion on the coastline there.
I guess I was thinking about if we weren't supporting doing this and taking these actions. I mean, I feel as though we're doing it for the water supply for the entire region, but I'm totally in support of this, and I do thank you for the presentation and for all the heavy lifting and bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Smith, you're
Yes,
recognized.
just briefly in answer to Commissioner Kemp's question, we are putting the water down the sharp wells at the coast, preventing saltwater intrusion. That is adding water pressure that will free up additional groundwater for production wells miles and miles inland if we are able to use that. But either way, we're going to have to keep putting water down to at the coast to prevent that saltwater intrusion. So, it does seem like it would be kind of a waste of this extra water if we don't figure out some way to bring it online, especially since the need is so great over the next 6 years. Thanks.
Okay, not seeing any further discussion. Are there any other questions before we take a roll call vote? Seeing none, please take a roll call.
Overman,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Carden, for being here.
Thank you.
Ms. Wise.
Thank you. Our next item is item E1. This is the presentation regarding hurricane season and preparedness. We have with us Eric Corliss and Dr. Ken Gadara from the American Red Cross.
Excellent. And are they present there? Or they're online?
Yes, we're here present, and Dr. Gadara was not able to make it with me this morning. He's not feeling well, so I have with me a very honorable replacement. Our soon-to-be chairwoman of the board, Miss Ella Landegger, is joining us. We do have a presentation, but I'll just jump right in the interest of time. So I'm Eric Corliss. I'm the regional CEO for Central Florida and the U.S. Virgin Islands of the American Red Cross. And what I wanted to talk about, and if we can go to the next slide, is the mission of the Red Cross is to alleviate human suffering by mobilizing the generosity of volunteers, or the passion of volunteers, and generosity of our donors. So we are funded by private donations from corporations, individuals, and foundations, with some government funding for our Service Armed Forces program. But go to the next slide. 90 cents of every dollar goes to fund our programs and services. That comes into the American Red Cross. And I want to touch on these briefly before we jump into hurricane season and disaster. So first, our Service Armed Forces. At this time, we have Red Crossers that are forward deployed with our U.S. military that are around Ukraine. And we work with the service members and the family members across the country to make sure that those that are overseas serving our country know their families are cared for. So we deliver emergency messages. When my grandfather passed away, the Red Cross has got a hold of me in Germany to let me know that he did pass away. That allows our men and women who serve in uniform to focus on their mission while we focus on their families. Disaster services. Just yesterday, we helped a family of 4 in Hillsborough County whose home burned. And when you look at the most deadly disaster every single year, it's home fires. And Ella's going to talk about our preparedness program. Not only is she one of our passionate leaders, she's particularly passionate about preparedness. I'm popping my P's there. And then the biomed services, we collect blood, not here in Central Florida, but we are the largest distributor and collector of blood in the country. We offer CPR and first aid training, and then international services where we provide connection and support for disasters around the world, including reuniting families that are separated. But I really want to get to the next slide, if I remember correctly. So nope, not this one. This is just us, 19 counties, Central Florida. It's the next slide that's the good one, the one that I want to talk about for a little bit before we talk about preparedness and what's our imperative. So this is a graphic that's produced by NOAA. And when you look at billion-dollar disasters over the last, since the 80s, but particularly the previous decade, there was an average of $12 billion disasters across the country every year from 2010 to 2019. We moved to 2020, COVID aside, we had $22 billion disasters across the United States and its territories. And in 2021, it was 20. So what we're seeing is a significant increase in the size, the scope, and the frequency of the disasters. And while we were fortunate in 2020 and 2021 in Hillsborough County in the Tampa Bay area, many of our colleagues were not across the country. Wildfires on the West Coast, multiple hurricanes that made landfall in Louisiana over to the panhandle of Florida. We had derechos, floods, tornadoes. We have seen them. But what we're seeing and what's the impact in the very same conversations that were had earlier today are what we're seeing is impacting the families we're helping. So prior to this, and for Hurricane Irma, going back to the last big one that affected us, we had people in shelters in the state of Florida for 60 days. Outside of something at the scope and the magnitude of Irma, we looked at about 7 days as how long people stayed in shelters in the previous decade. In the last 2 years, people are staying for more than 30 days. And that's because of access to housing, to health care, and then to, I'd say, hunger or food. So they're staying longer because of the economic realities of what is happening in our communities. So what we want to talk about next, and this is where I'll turn it over to Ella, is to talk about our preparedness programs for individuals, for businesses, for youth, that makes a difference. And the World Health Organization has said every dollar invested in preparedness returns fourfold back to the community and to those that are involved. So, Ms. Ella.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us here this morning. It is really a pleasure to be here. If I could have the next slide, please. One of the reasons I'm very passionate about preparedness is because I did lose my home in a fire, and then my stepson lost his this past fall. So as Commissioner Smith said, any time that you can prevent and also be prepared for disaster, you are going to get through it much easier. And my son even concurred with that. He said, I knew which was the other way to get out. So he was fine. Anyway, one of the big things that we have is on second and fourth Thursdays, we do a Be Red Cross Ready webinar, which is talking about hurricane preparedness in anticipation of June 1st or what might happen during May. And we can come to any community group, anyone that you would like us to go to, we will go out and be very happy to present that to them as well. Ready rating is something that I would suggest that you talk to any businesses that you have. As we discovered during the pandemic, a lot of businesses did not succeed very well when they couldn't go in person to their locations. The Ready Rating program is readyrating.org. There's a very quick questionnaire which kind of runs you through a few things to make sure that you be prepared, and there's a longer one in depth. It is free, but we highly recommend that you propose Ready Rating to any corporations that you're working with. So readyrating.org. Next slide, please. My most fun thing is we get to talk to children. This year, we had the great pleasure of being online streaming to the Hillsborough schools. We taught over several thousand students in K through 2 is the Prepare with Pedro program, and the Pillowcase project is for grades 3, 4, and 5, which gives them an outline of what kind of things go into your kit, which is the pillowcase that we're talking about, as well as talking about hurricane preparedness, a coping skill, as well as home fire safety. One of the things we do at the beginning of that is something I'm going to share with you right now. I'd like you to all put your hands up. You've been sitting there for quite a long time, even all of you at home, and wave them around for a moment. You've been sitting still, right? Okay, now drop them in your lap and put them up again, and do that again, and drop. We do that getting the wiggles out, but I figure you've been sitting for a while, so you need to do that. The other one is also breathing with color, which I'm sure if you're about to make any presentation, it's always good. Breathe in, thinking your favorite color, and breathe out, thinking smoke color. So that's one of the things we do in teaching students. Moving on, because I went too long on that probably. Next slide, please. Before the storm, obviously, we are always working with the emergency operations centers and with all of the counties that we're in, but especially here in Hillsborough and Pinellas area, where we are preparing 120 hours out before the storm hits. We've got a whole timeline with that. Next slide, please. I know you can look at this whole presentation and read it yourself, so I don't want to go too much in depth. Next slide, please. During the storm, which was the last slide, but it's okay. During the storm, obviously, we are busy at work because we've put all of our different emergency response vehicles in locations. We are working in the shelters where we've been asked to work with you. And then after the storm, we are also there to help with the casework. And as Eric mentioned, that the average amount of stay that we're having now in the shelters is lasting much longer, and it's hard to get people placed back into a home if they have lost it. There has been a tremendous increase in that need with the caseworkers. Next slide, please. In recovery, we also have people who go out and look at the assessment to verify that it's there. We're often obviously working with FEMA and so on. So this is all part of what happens and what we're doing on the ground. And yes, we're always willing to get more volunteers. If you know anyone who doesn't know what to do, send them our way, please. Next slide, please. You can download an app. I recommend this highly. Red Cross emergency app. You can also put into it the alarms that will let you know if there is something coming your way, as well as for your family in other parts of the country. You can also, there's Facebook where it's Red Cross Central Florida. We have a Twitter account and on LinkedIn as well. But most of all, please do download that emergency app. And also you can look at readyrating.org. Next slide. We communicate a lot. We have community volunteer leaders, such as myself, as well as working with the elected official liaisons, and we are out there everywhere. So the disaster cycle is where we're preparing, we're responding, and then we help in the recovery. So that's what we're doing here, as well as the military and all the other pieces that we do concurrently. Next slide. And I think that's it. Oh, I already told you, we'd love to have more volunteers. If you know anyone who wants to volunteer, we'll take them. Please send them our way. And most of all, we want to say thank you. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for keeping us in mind. Remember the readyrating.org, and also always Central Florida. We're here to help you. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Excellent. Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation that helps us not only see all the wonderful things you do, but all the wonderful ways that people can volunteer and be of service to our community. And thank you so much for being there, especially when we see you, it means there's a lot of stuff going on. And so I really appreciate you being there and doing what you do. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Yes, and I just want to thank you as well for a very well done presentation, reminding us there's a wide range of emergencies that we need to be prepared for, and allowing us to take pride in your work with you in all the ways that you're helping everyone face some of the worst times in their lives. I especially appreciate your personal story and your that gives you the passion, some of the passion, to help our citizens. I'm often struck by the pride that our county staff takes in helping our citizens in many, many ways. And you are a prime example of that. And thanks for coming forward today and giving this presentation.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I will ask for a motion to receive the report and then recognize Ms. Wise.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion by Commissioner Smith, a second by Commissioner Myers. Seeing no further discussion, please indicate your vote. Do a roll call vote, please.
Overman,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. We can now go back to the regular agenda and on to item F4. Commissioner Overman, this is regarding the Wade Boggs Athletic Achievement Award.
Yes, the Achievement Award Committee has made a recommendation to award the 2022 Wade Boggs Athletic Achievement Award to amazing recipients. And what I'd like to ask for is the board's approval to do the award presentation at the June 2nd BOCC meeting.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Hagan, a second by Commissioner Cohen. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please take a roll call vote.
Overman,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Kemp,
Yes.
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Excellent. Thank you. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. Our next item is item F5. This is Commissioner Smith's item relating to term limits.
Thank you. And this item is just about a possible charter amendment to tighten up the current rules regarding term limits. Before I got here, back in early 2018, Commissioner Kemp brought this forward. She brought forward an item on term limits, and that got deferred then. It has been discussed at the board level several times. And then a few months ago, during a discussion about term limits for our other boards, I raised the issue that I think this board needs term limits that work. And a couple of other commissioners spoke in support of tightening up our term limits in some form at that time. So at that time, seeing some support on this board, I asked the county attorney's office to help bring back something for discussion. Although the language in the charter is kind of confusing, and we have to read it through a few times to understand it's not 6 years, but it's more than 6 years. You can keep on running. Anyway, this is actually a simple proposal to close the loophole that allows people to avoid term limits stated in the charter by switching seats. Currently, a commissioner may serve up to 10 years in a single-member district if they happen to hit that 2-year term, or serve 8 years in a county-wide seat. And then, because of the loophole, they're allowed to run consecutively in another seat, effectively extending term limits beyond the specified 10 or 8 years. And then they can switch back over and over again. So in effect, there's term limits can be avoided forever. The way to prevent this extension of term limits by switching seats is to amend the charter language under section 4.04 as shown in the backup. And this would fix it so that once a commissioner has reached the term limit of 2 4-year terms, with or without that extra 2 years, you get that free. Instead of switching seats to run again, you'd have to sit out 2 years before you could run again. I'll point out that anyone can still get an extra 2-year term if they run for that 2-year term that happens every 10 years during the redistricting process. And under this proposal, you can still switch seats all you want, but once you've got 6 years in office, you can only run for one more 4-year term, and then you'd have to sit out. Under this proposal, you can sit out 2 years and then run again at the next election that comes up after that break. And please keep in mind that today, I'm only asking you board members to allow me to bring something back, and we usually do try to work together to give each other's ideas a fair hearing that way. So today, I'm just asking that we bring back a charter amendment for us to consider adding to the ballot in the 2022 election. I've been asked by citizens about this quite a lot. people don't think it's right to have this loophole that lets people avoid term limits and run consecutively over and over past the stated term limits by simply switching seats and then switching back again. It just doesn't make sense to people, and it doesn't make sense to me. Why do we have term limits at all if anyone can avoid them by switching seats? And people ask me about this all the time. People were asking me about this last night, and I was proud to say that I was trying to fix this. So for the rest of my life, however this turns out at this board, I want to be able to tell people that I tried to fix this and close this loophole. And so I'll make this motion to direct the county attorney's office to draft an amendment to the term limit provision of the Hillsborough County Charter that would close the current loophole that allows a commissioner's term in office to be extended beyond the specified limit by switching seats, and to bring that amendment and charter language back in time for us to consider putting it on the ballot for the November 2022 election. And that's my motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
We have a second by Commissioner Kemp. Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to be supporting this motion, and I just want to say why. First of all, I don't think it's a loophole. I think that the charter was written deliberately to be the way that it is. And I think over the years, the voters have really showed that they are perfectly capable of ending someone's tenure on the county commission as they are extending it. Commissioner Smith was elected against a longtime commissioner who served the full 10 years in a district seat and wasn't able to move on to a county-wide seat. It's happened in other races. On the other hand, the voters have decided at times that they want to extend a commissioner's tenure. And I would say that based on my experience here and also at the Tampa City Council with Councilman Charlie Miranda, it can be very helpful to have someone on the board that has a long tenure of experience that might be able to give some perspective on why something was done a certain way 20 years ago. But the main reason that under normal circumstances, I would say, well, why not just send it off and let the county attorney's office come back with something? But the reason I don't want to do that today is because I think we are already asking for something very, very important from our citizens on this year's November ballot, and that is this transportation initiative. And I really don't think it's a good idea to start muddying up the conversation with other charter amendments and referendum type questions that take our eye off the ball of what it is that we're going to be trying to accomplish with the transportation issue. So for that reason also, I just don't want to move forward with something on the ballot this year in 2022.
I see Commissioner Myers, your hand is raised. Commissioner Hagan, then your hand is raised. I'll call on Commissioner Myers and then Commissioner Hagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Cohen, you couldn't have said it any better. With the item that we have coming before us in November, that is the one that this board, and we're hoping that all the voters focus on to get passed for us. And I will not be supporting this item either, because we have an item that I'm championing to get this transportation tax passed that is so much needed here in our Hillsborough County, and that is my focus. But thank you, Commissioner Smith for bringing the item forward.
Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll keep my remarks brief. Growing up, my buddies would frequently say that I was a master of the obvious. Well, once again, I'm going to be master of the obvious and say that we all know what this is about. Staff knows it, county attorney's office knows it, and everyone on this board knows it. And I just want to point out, since the charter has been in effect, if, by my account, if my math is correct, 6 commissioners have attempted to switch seats. Tom Scott, Jim Norman, Ken Hagan, Al Higginbotham, Victor Christ, and Sandy Merman. 3 were successful, 3 were not. In fact, Commissioner Smith and Kemp defeated 2 commissioners, attempting to switch seats. So clearly, being an incumbent, does not guarantee you will be elected. Every charter board has considered term limits or preventing switching seats, and each board has had Republicans and Democrats supportive of a charter change. And at the same time, there have been representatives on both sides that have felt that the voters should be the ultimate arbiter of term limits. So it's not a partisan issue. Several times in the past, this board has considered and discussed a charter change, but we could never land on an appropriate number of years. I think even the board members that were supportive of term limits did not support an 8-year term limits based on what has transpired in the state legislature. So with that, those are the only comments I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hagan. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the first thing I'm going to mention probably is almost not even necessary given the second thing that'll come up, but I guess I'll just start anyway with first, how do you feel about the length of time that a commissioner should be able to serve? Because I continue to believe that 8 years is probably not quite enough.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I'll answer that question. I brought this forward as a simple closing the loophole motion, but if it's the will of the board to massage that, amend it to some other way, I would be receptive to working together on something that would tighten up the limits in a way that the full board could, or at least a majority of the board could accept.
Thank you. And then my second observation is, although term limits tend to be very popular with the voters, I'd be hard pressed to vote against closing a term limit loophole. However, I think it's clear that you have 4 votes at most, and it's going to take 5 votes to send this to the voters in a referendum. And I would hate to put the county attorney's office staff through all that work just to get it here to know that it's frankly probably dead on arrival. Because even if it passed on a 4-3 vote, it's not gonna cut it. So, are you going to leave your motion on the floor? Or?
Yes, I'm going to leave that motion, but if there's a substitute motion that, as you point out, it takes 5 votes to put something on the charter. And I agree, there's no point in putting the county attorney's office through something. But just because I feel so strongly about this, I'll leave this motion on the floor, but if there's a substitute motion that gains support, I could support that instead.
Okay. I think I'm going to be a no vote for today. We have just kept staff so busy on so many initiatives, and I just don't want to put Ms. Beck's staff through that, knowing that it's an exercise that's likely to arrive here at the dais and not go any further. So I do want the record to reflect that I would generally be supportive of some sort of term limits, tightening things up, closing a loophole, but my no vote today is primarily going to reflect the fact that it would just be an unnecessary utilization of staff's time based upon my read of the board.
Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank Commissioner Smith for bringing this forward. I do think it's wise to do this. I think it's good for democracy. Generally term limits exist for executive positions like governors, the executive positions, president, and not generally for legislative positions. And I understand that. And I do find the 8 years for our state legislators to be too short. But we are kind of in the middle because we don't have an executive, a county mayor, for instance, like a lot of the big counties do. So we're both executive and legislators. And I think it would be a very good move for us. And listening to Commissioner White, I've always thought kind of 12 years, and you could serve on either, you could run for districts or countywide, but do 12 years and then do a break. And so I guess I'll do at this point, because it sounds like there could be some support for that. And otherwise, I would be supporting this motion just on principle. It doesn't sound like it has the support to pass, but I'll make a substitute motion for 12 years, a 12-year limit of service, and then a 2-year break, not to run till the next term.
Commissioner Kemp, could you clarify what that means?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time
Anyone
understanding
could
exactly.
run they could do 3 consecutive terms. Any individual could do 3 consecutive terms, and then they would not be able to run for a 4th term. They'd have to take a break until the next election.
Okay. So is that a substitute motion?
Yes, that is.
Okay. Do we have a second? Seeing none, it dies for the second, lack of a second. Any other comment? Commissioner White, your hand is still raised, as well as your hand, Commissioner Kemp. So we could go back to the original motion. Before we take a vote on the original motion, I'd like to just offer a little bit of comment. I would have difficulties supporting this for a couple of different reasons. I happened to live until the districts changed due to redistricting, and I did for 20 years in District 3, which we had robust conversations about the importance of having adequate minority representation within our districts. And that District 3 had, there was a desire to maintain the minority representation there. I filed in 16 to run in District 3 before I really kind of understood all of that. So I decided that in order to respect the voters' wishes to have a district that is represented by a minority, I withdrew and then was left with the choice of running countywide in 2018. So hopping between districts sounds like it's practical, but it isn't when we have a minority designated districts, unless a commissioner chooses to move. And that you can't really write that into a charter. At least I don't think you can. So I understand the goal is to respect the voters' wishes, but also respect the fact that incumbency has a certain amount of ability to be accepted by the voters in a way that a newcomer, doesn't have. But I'm not going to be able to support the motion either. Although I do appreciate the intent, I won't be able to support it. So with that, unless there's any other comment, please take a roll call vote.
Overman?
No.
Cohen?
No.
Hagan?
Yes.
Kemp?
Yes.
Myers? No.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
No.
Motion failed 3-4. Commissioners Overman, Cohen, Myers, and White voted no.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. The final item are future discussion items.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Smith, you said that if it didn't pass, you'd wanted to bring something back to the item. Did you have the desire to do so before we move on?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry, Ms. Wise? Future items?
Sure, future discussion items.
Don't see any hands. I have two. Seeing no others, I'd like to ask the staff to bring back either the research or an ordinance that would require 60-day notice of non-renewal by a landlord, whether on a month-to-month or at the end of the lease term, as an emergency order. We have, as I mentioned earlier, less than a month's worth of inventory. That is creating a great deal of crisis among families. Currently, it's my understanding that landlord, if they are on a month-to-month, only requires a 15-day notice and a 30-day notice for a non-renewal at the end of a lease. Given that there is less than a month's worth of inventory of available rental properties and or properties for purchase, I would consider us in a state of emergency as it pertains to not affordable housing, but just housing in general. And this gives us an opportunity to give folks a little more time to be able to find another place to live and to avoid the filing of an eviction, which stays permanently on their record for the rest of their financial life, as the law stands right now, even if it is dismissed at a future date. That's one item. And then the second one is to ask legal to come back with an option to demand a response from FDOT regarding the item that was discussed by Mr. Rosas earlier today regarding the inequitable treatment of underpasses between downtown and 275 and Hillsborough Avenue. I know that we have, at various different meetings, board members and citizens have asked for the straight up walls that he described in his public testimony. We've repeatedly asked for it, and it has been repeatedly ignored by FDOT. So I'd like to ask legal to come back with whatever our options are to demand a satisfactory response to citizens' requests and actually other board requests regarding the underpass treatment. And that's all I had. Any others? Seeing no others, we can call the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.